In his post-cinematic affect, Stephen Shaviro suggestively brings the concept of celebrity into relation with Graham Harman's object-oriented philosophy, claiming that a pop star like Grace Jones embodies the allure of the object, promising a human intimacy that it's structurally impossible to deliver. On this basis, and following a specific media technical and cultural line of development, Jones as a celebrity icon is able to mediate the non-human agencies shaping our digital life worlds. In what follows, I want to offer a similar analysis for Lady Gaga and expand a bit on the role of non-human objects in the performance of 21st century celebrity. Let me start with Gaga's iPod LCD glasses, a simple but effective product or agent of remediation, of the recursive nesting of media within media. Here, a textual message is presented through video screens removed from a device for the storage and reproduction of digital audio recordings, which in turn remediate analog performances. Reframed as a pair of eyeglasses, the eye-catching device makes for a great spectacle, but a poor set of spectacles, thus problematizing the very vision and video-saturated visual culture that the device most centrally addresses. The glasses therefore exhibit a self-reflexive awareness of the larger media environment, as do other objects from Gaga's repertoire: her crystal glasses, mirror mask, circuit glasses, and, my favorite, her half-burnt cigarette glasses. All these objects disturb vision and its mediation, focusing visual attention on deformed and non-functional spectacles. And like the disco stick and disco glove, these are products of House of Gaga, the creative team that Gaga claims is modeled on Andy Warhol's factory. Warhol himself wanted to be a machine, and Gaga says she's an android, sent to Earth to infiltrate human culture, one sequin at a time. As a Warholian project, in which an evacuation of artistic genius is at stake, Gaga's object-centric undertaking can be seen, in the words of Daniel Haas, as a project of, quote, changing anthropological constants through design, not through deep thought, but through material surfaces and masks. Notions of mask, surface, media, and iconicity, as well as a network of human and non-human agencies converge then in Gaga's iPod LCD glasses. They emerge from a factory-like network where humans and non-humans interact to bring forth objects that are at once essential to Gaga's iconic image, but that problematize the image and vision itself through a medial self-reflexivity and an uncanny vacillation between functional and ornamental valencies. These strange objects, not unlike Batman's mask and utility belt, the bolts in the neck of Frankenstein's monster, Sherlock Holmes' pipe, or Dracula's fangs, are not mere supplements, but themselves central to the immediate recognizability and reproducibility of a more or less flat, depthless character. Like Gaga's famous meat dress, the iPod LCD glasses serve to displace interiority, to relocate Gaga's agency outside of her body in a network of objects that cannot be captured completely by the framing function of a single medium. Like the reversible frames of Derrida's Paragon, such objects pivot a reversal of attention from the work being framed to the work of the frame. Rather than mediating human vision, Gaga's glasses block passage through the windows of the soul, instead reflecting the video camera's gaze back at it, drawing as much attention to the medium as to any message or artistic vision. The glasses thus open up a reversible margin between medium and message, form and content, or inside and outside, maintaining a material surplus that ensures Gaga the icon's ability to transcend the single medium and to remain in circulation among various media. Objects like the iPod LCD glasses lay the foundation, in other words, for the articulation of Gaga not as a unified subject, but as a distributed series of media remixes. Serially, Lady Gaga follows and remixes stars like Elvis, Madonna, or David Bowie, stars no less theatrical or object-oriented in their performance of ambivalent roles across a range of media. But I want to reconsider this lineage in terms of a somewhat different context of popular seriality. Focusing on the relation between serial forms and media formats, I hope to arrive at a more precise characterization of Gaga's specific sort of serial media remix. For the present purposes, I follow Niklas Luhmann's conception of media, which is not restricted to concrete apparatuses such as televisions, radios, or computers. Inspired by Fritz Heider's distinction of medium and thing, defined as the difference between a loose coupling and a tight coupling of elements of a given sort, Luhmann approaches mediality as a relation between a given medial substrate and the forms it can assume. Substrate and form are always composed of the same basic stuff, whatever that may be, the same elements. The difference between them lies in their respective organization of these elements. A substrate is a relatively unordered mass of particles, while forms are tight or strict couplings, that is, relatively ordered combinations of elements. The loosely coupled molecules of the air can be temporarily ordered into forms, wave patterns, by a loudspeaker, for example. The tones we then perceive are themselves a medium, out of which specific couplings or combinations can be formed to produce music. Similarly, the letters of the alphabet constitute a medium in which specific orderings, words as forms, can be composed, and words serve as a medium for the construction of sentence forms, sentences a medium for textual forms, and so on. On this view, remix turns out to be one of the basic operations of media. Because media are defined as the operative deployment of the difference of medial substrate and form relative to an observer or system, the forms of one medium are in principle always available for appropriation or sampling to be used as the material substrate of another medium. And this conception of media as inherently remixable also helps explain the media ontological queerness of objects like Gaga's iPod LCD glasses, as rooted in the multistability of substrate-form relations. The LCD screens that serve as a medial substrate in their original apparatic assemblage of the iPod become here a form, a spectacle in their own right, when transplanted into the frame of the eyeglasses. Simultaneously, though, they acquire a new substratal function as the pixels organize to form a textual message. Nevertheless, a figure ground reversal is prompted by the screen's short-circuiting of vision. By blocking their wearer's sight, and by preventing us from seeing her eyes, they impede the communication of artistic vision and decenter human agency itself, deflecting the camera-mediated line of sight away from the message and back towards the conditions of its nested technical mediations. The analysis can be extended to Gaga herself, who can be seen alternately as the object framed by her ornamental props or as the substratal medium that frames them. Gaga assumes a flickering sort of agency in the context of a dynamic network of actors, and it's this flickering that turns the remix into a series. On one occasion, Luhmann redescribes his distinction of medial substrate and form in terms of the distinction between redundancy and variety. Mediality converges here with seriality. The principles of repetition and variation are basic to the constitution of series, including what I call the serial figure. As opposed to the series character, which unfolds within a continuing narrative, like a soap opera or novel series, where it develops biographical complexity and psychological depth, the serial figure is apt to remain flat, and as Umberto Eco once wrote of Superman, to experience a repeated virtual beginning with each new production or installment. The serial figure is a stock character of sorts, appearing again and again in different adaptation forms, contexts, and in various media. Whereas the series character exists within a series, where he or she develops or evolves, the serial figure exists as a series, as the set of instantiations that evolves not within a homogeneous diegetic space, but between or across such spaces. And because serial figures, in contrast to series characters, lead a surplus existence outside of any one given telling, they're in a perfect position to reflect on the media of their repeated stagings. Batman, for example, circulates among comics, TV, film, and video games. This plurimedial existence is enabled by the figure's easy recognizability, which is ensured by a set of objects, cape, mask, utility belt, batarang, etc. On the basis of these, the iconic figure is never exhausted by its instantiation in a given medium, but remains available for reinstantiation in another medium at another time. Through these objects, the figure therefore maintains an existence outside of the diegetic world articulated in any given medium. The objects, and the iconic figure they help construct, flicker or alternate between a medial inside and outside, between narrative roles and functions on the one hand, and an external position from which they're able to serve a medially self-reflexive function. A fragmented, discontinuous sort of seriality accrues upon the figure as a snowballing accumulation of medial materialities. Consider Frankenstein's monster in this regard, who on film has become the epitome of a flat figure, doomed to be literally reborn with each new adaptation, without hope of narrative development. The creature's animation is a self-reflexive event, though, as its narrative occurrence is also an occasion for putting the state of the art in filmic animation on display. The seriality of the films is therefore a non-narrative seriality, as it consists in a development on a specifically medial extra-diegetic level, displayed in the additions of sound, color, widescreen, computer animation, and the like. Again, objects like the neck bolts and the flat-headed monster's own status as object are essential to the figure's iconicity, and thus to the monster's ability to serve as the locus of a fragmented, plurimedial seriality. With the help of these objects, which flicker queerly between diegetic and non-diegetic roles and functions, the serial figure is itself constituted as a medium in which changes, developments, and innovations in apparatic media are charted. Leveraging reversals of figure and ground or substrate and form, the serial figure, as part of a network of objects, becomes the element, milieu, or medium itself of an interplay between repetition and variation, a veritable nexus of serial media remixes. Many serial figures are Janus-faced beings who oscillate between secret and public identities, or between the human and the animal or technical. This narrative duplicity maps nicely onto the duality of inward and outward-looking perspectives towards diegetic contents and medial forms, thus promoting the figure's ongoing movement from one medium to the next. In this regard, Batman, Superman, and Tarzan are similar to a Madonna, whose celebrity persona is distinguished from the civilian identity of her youth, serving as an alternate locus of agency that proliferates across media channels in an interplay between iconic redundancy and role-playing variation. Trademark images and objects keep things in motion: pointy bras, wedding dresses, Marilyn Monroe, and religious imagery. Similarly, Bowie alternates with Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, Major Tom, and Jareth the Goblin King, constituting a plurimedial seriality in which eye patches and lightning bolts, elegant suits, and spiky hair are centrally operative. Performances of queer or ambivalent sexualities are at least in part rooted in the inherent formal queerness of such objects and of the serial figure's dual identity. This duality, as I've been suggesting, is in fact an image of the figure's function as a medium, as a deployer of an operative difference between substrate and form. But a dual or liminal identity at the level of the diegesis is not sufficient for a figure's functioning as a medium. What's essential is the interaction of queer, flickering objects that leverage that duality and transform it into a medium of serialized, plurimedial proliferation. And so we return to Gaga and her props. As I've argued, it's the network that Gaga forms with her LCD glasses, meat dresses, pyro bras, disco sticks, and other accessories that constitute the queer mediality of Lady Gaga the icon. These strange objects flickering between medial inside and outside, between the fiction of a particular staging and the medial framing of the fiction, these are accessories in a strong sense, non-human co-conspirators in crime. They ensure the remixability, the medial nesting or remediation of Gaga the icon. Like the neck bolts, pipe, cape, mask, and fangs of classical serial figures, Gaga's accessories are essential to her ability to be restaged in a variety of media environments, to articulate together various media and sociocultural spheres and identifications. The queer ontology of this network of things leverages the difference between Lady Gaga and Stefani Germanotta and transforms it finally into a medium, into a nexus of serial media remixes that, through its repeated restagings across a variety of apparatic media, enacts an interplay of repetition and variation, thus embodying seriality as a plurimedial interface between trajectories of continuity and discontinuity. Finally, then, I'd like to suggest that Gaga may be an image of our own transitional moment, marked by convergence and an uncertain remediation of cultural, medial, and anthropotechnical distinctions. Emblematically, Lady Gaga takes her name from Queen's Radio Gaga. By taking the place of Queen's vapid, mindless Gaga radio, by herself becoming that medium, she marks the transition from discrete apparatic media to a distributed and queerly embodied regime of the serial media remix.